Hey! Oh my goodness. The full Chrome
Oh,
experience.
right.
Okay, can you hear me? I can hear you.
Yes.
Excellent. Fantastic. Yeah, I'm not in my normal spot. I'm actually at the Linux Foundation Summit in Lake Tahoe.
I wish I was too.
Yeah, I wish you were here too. Although, you know what? Now is not the time to come. I haven't, it's still dark, but my understanding is that we got dumped on last night. So we are snowed in.
Oh
We're
dear.
going to have a meeting because there are no alternatives.
Oh dear.
Oh, you know what? I'm staying at the hotel the conference is at. So
Super easy.
if you're going to be snowed in, that's a pretty good situation.
Hmm. Indeed. Yeah, you know, maybe next year.
Please do. Please do. I will note that I added some notes to the best working group discussion here. So
I saw. We are compiling. If anyone has any topics that aren't currently on the agenda, please add those to the open section. I have a link to the agenda in our Zoom chat. It is also pinned at the top of our Slack channel. Technology. We'll get started in just a moment or so. Are you ready for an action-packed week out there, David?
I am. I somehow don't have I'm not being asked to speak this time around. I have no idea how that happened.
What are those
Uh,
fools thinking?
it would be. I am prepared for the impromptu, but right, that's okay. There's a lot of people that you never have a chance to talk to, and except for this conference. So I'm going to try to do as much of that as my body will let me.
Awesome. Cool. All right, it is 2 after the hour. Welcome, everyone, to the November 8th Patch Tuesday edition of the Best Working Group. Looking at our agenda, do we have any new friends that are joining the group for the first time that wanted to introduce themselves and say, hey?
Hey guys, I am Noam Dotan from Legit Security, a security researcher. We do like supply chain security. Glad to be here. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Hey folks, I'm Ola Dewberry. I hail from VMware, and yeah, I'm really just here to listen and to learn. I work in an incubation lab in the office of the CTO, and yeah, just looking to get familiar with the community and what's going on.
Awesome. Welcome.
Thank you.
Any other new friends that wanted to introduce themselves?
Yeah, I'm new today. My name is David Alcantar. I work at Microsoft, and I am definitely here to listen, but I also have a very sudden proposal that I want to make for a project that we are trying to head up over here at Microsoft, but something we're interested in donating, quote unquote, donating, really collaborating with OpenSSF on. So I will speak to you guys about that when it's my turn.
Great. Go ahead and add that to the open section if you would, David.
Yep, I definitely have. Thanks.
All right. The most important job on this call. Is anyone able to assist us and take notes, please?
I'll do what I can.
Thank you, Mr. Rousseau.
Many hands make easy work.
Right.
Yep. I will also make some attempts.
All right. So again, if there are any opens, please add those to the open section of the agenda. Let's kick off with sub-project updates. I see Mr. Wheeler's been very busy, as always.
Well, thank you. Yeah, so trying to keep people in the loop of what's going on. First of all, quick welcome to a new maintainer, Andrew Fader. I don't think he's on the call today, but I'm doing too many things, and I'm still going to lead this project, but this is going to bring some very, very welcome help. He's going to be focusing on doing some updates like moving us from Rails 6 to 7 and that sort of stuff. One kind of nitpicky thing, but just for those of you who are keeping score, Heroku's removed their free tier. Although we pay for the production site, we've typically had two other tiers called main and staging. We're dropping one of them because now we've got to pay for each of those. So pull requests and rationales and such there. Questions?
Would you like to put forth a proposal to the TAC to have the foundation sponsor the funding for the infrastructure?
Actually, I think what I'm going to try my first step to see if the CNCF will just keep paying for it. So I want to be kind to them. But yeah, we've actually had chats about that. It probably would make more sense, but I hate to mess with things that are working. So,
Well, the best budget is somebody else's budget.
that's right. That's right. So, and the thing is, the rationale is, it's a requirement for them for graduation, and historically they had a lot more funding, and but it would make sense to move over. But right now, I don't. In the grand sense, it doesn't matter because I want to try to minimize the costs of whoever is paying the check. So this is basically just an effort to. It made sense when it didn't cost, but now that's costing something, let's try to back off to what we strictly need.
Sure. Well, if you reconsider and you want to put forth a proposal, glad to work with you on that to push that up to the TAC.
Appreciate it. Yeah. So next up, anything else? Before I was going to move on, but I shouldn't. Before questions. Okay. All right, so the next thing, and I'm currently in a hotel room, so I have it's not a desktop metaphor, it's the airplane, it's the airplane seat metaphor. I've got this little tiny screen I'm working with. Okay, so security fundamentals course. I've actually had two separate meetings with the SKF leads. We've talked a lot about how to better integrate SKF and the fundamentals course. For those who aren't familiar, the fundamentals course, we work on having a really high quality, but very simple. Here are the fundamentals on how to develop secure software. And we've emphasized minimizing the amount of time for developers because a lot of developers don't have a lot of time. One of the decisions is lots of little quiz questions as you go and a little final exam to see whether or not you learn anything, but no labs, intentionally so. SKF takes a different approach, labs. I think we all agree that labs are better for learning, but they take a lot more time and a lot of people don't have the time. So it makes sense to have both. But the SKF folks do, of course, need, that kind of linking material. So it makes more sense for them to integrate the fundamentals course in. So that's what they did. But what they did is they hand jammed, they took the course and hand converted it into SKF. And that had some, it ran, but the problem is we keep making updates, Glenn. and our updates aren't getting reflected in SKF, Glenn. You want to defend yourself or no, okay. All right, this is all in good fun. So, it actually made sense. They're trying to get something done in a hurry, and so they got something done. But the longer term plan is they're going to create a converter. I said it's file, but it's a script, some kind of script that's going to read the markdown and convert, and that'll let them automatically do updates, enabling automatic updates. And the plan now, they need some information in the markdown to point off to say, hey, right here, you could do a lab. Well, I don't know who's putting in GitHub actions. That wasn't committed to. I think that's the obvious way to do it, but that's up to the SKF folks.
Yeah, that's me.
We're using GitHub Action.
Who's we?
SKF.
SKF.
Oh, okay, all right, yeah, yeah. If you're going to use GitHub, that's great. Okay, yeah. I just, I don't remember making that. I don't want to commit them to something unless they commit to it. But basically, that'll just do automatic conversions, and we'll add HTML comments with little markers in the HTML to say, hey, there's a lab here, whatever. And that way, when when they bring things in, they can immediately add the links and that sort of thing. And I think if somebody else had the same need, we could add other information the same way. But that way, one source of truth. When something gets updated, everybody can just quietly take the update. No muss, no fuss. And I think that just makes sense. Let me pause at that point because that's an integration issue between projects. I think it's just the obvious way to do it, and I think it just kind of it makes sense to everybody. So we'll work out the details as we go. But I mean, as long as they're HTML comments, it won't matter for Markdown, and as long as SKF can read it, then all is well. And so SKF will decide what they want and put it in, and all will be awesome. Okay. All right. I don't see any issues, at least comments. So little nit, we're going to move quizzes from heading level 3 to 4. There are about 75 quiz sections in the fundamentals course. And that's not just quizzes, that's sections. Many of them have more than one question. But the idea is to help people learn as you go. It's instead of labs, they're much faster, but at least it keeps them off the I read words but nothing entered my brain. And there's some really awesome, really old books that did this that I found this very effective in. So I think it's a really effective technique. But this makes the generated table of contents much easier to understand. And we're also going to tweak the names so that every section name is unique. That's going to make Markdown lint happy. Well, that'll allow us to add Markdown lint check. And more importantly, it'll mean that every section will have an obvious, unique HTML anchor so you can jump to anything. And that's important for being able to link between sections and making sure we don't screw things up. All right. I'm out for my crazies updates. Anything else?
Thank you, David. Glenn has a couple updates about SKF.
Yeah, well, normally it would be way more actually, but we're pretty swamped with the whole AD plan actually. So actually no real updates in the platform, but what I can say that it's actually running quite smoothly now for like a good old month since we did the SSO implementation and some other fixes. We see that we have around like 1 unique new registered users or logins through SSO, like GitHub and that type of stuff. So that's quite nice. Also, a lot of people from the universities actually. So that's also good. So yeah, just wanted to share. It's running, it's working, and we have around 100 unique users who use the security requirements or starting labs actually, yeah, to learn. Yeah, and the other thing, yeah, we're really busy with the whole ADU SIG. So yeah, not a lot of updates, unfortunately, from my side, there in SKF at least.
Awesome, thank you. Let's get some brief updates on the education SIG. Oh, Laurent, did you show up? Or Azim?
He did not. That's actually me.
All right. Anything you want to say about that for scorecards?
Yeah, Sonatype really, well, Sonatype has a report, and they have all sorts of interesting analysis about scorecards. Analysis about scorecards. I hate to the quick summary is that they looked at what projects have known vulnerabilities and compared against scorecards, and they found that indeed several metrics of scorecards was actually predictive, and in particular several of its metrics were very predictive. You'll be unsurprised things like having peer reviews and pin dependencies, interestingly enough. So basically, it's measuring some, it's clearly measuring some things that have value. More details, see report.
And I'll say that that's one of the 4 big reports I look at every year: the Sonotype, the Sneak, the State of the Octaverse, and then the Verizon report, or the 4 I rely on every year. Cool. All right, so now let's get some brief updates on the education SIG. Mr. Rousseau, do you want to chat real quick?
Sure. So our section, again, we're focused on collecting and curating the content. So everyone hopefully knows that the spreadsheet we put together to gather all this information to get in one source of truth is out there. It's available. I see that there's been more information added to that spreadsheet. So please, asking everyone who knows of any of these materials that may be accessible and available, please put the information in the spreadsheet. If you have any questions about what some of the stuff in the spreadsheet means, feel free to reach out to myself or Krog or anybody else in the in section 1 to talk about that. We are focusing on getting the plan together by the end of this month. We are working on a roadmap, milestones and objectives, primarily for 2023 and a little bit into 2024, trying to figure out what the needfuls are, what budgetary requirements might be included in some of the things that we want to do, and how to actually prove that we're being successful at what it is we're trying to accomplish. So that is also in flight. It's in the Git repo. If anyone has any suggestions or things they'd like to contribute to that to help us make that as clear and detailed as possible, we are very happy to review any and all of those proposals. Any questions, just let us know.
Thank you, Dave. Glenn, section 2.
Yeah, I just had one question actually for the matrix, because I think we also discussed about the open, if it was like open data actually, so meaning that we actually can consume it. Is that the column E, reusable?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, check. All right. I was
Yes,
just
it is. Yes, it
because,
is.
okay, cool. Yeah, for section 2, we actually are now, I think, around 60% done with the goals and milestones. We are drafting up, yeah, the section 2 plan. I also created an issue because there was actually also a sort of overlap between the section of us and section 1. And that was about, I think, the translation parts actually. Because I saw in section 1.5 there was a, hey, we're going to hire to translate actually to like 5 proper spoken languages. And we also had in section 2 something, and I think we already discussed that as well. I don't know in the whole group or only in our section, but that was basically like, hey, let's maybe use an automatic translator API to on the spot translate it to whatever language people, you know, are familiar with. So I just wanted to check here in the group, yeah, what we should do in terms of who's going to do it and pick it up.
What
Well,
issue is that?
I linked it. It was
22?
32. Yeah.
Okay. So Glenn, Dave, and I need to look at that issue and have an answer by end of day, please. Come where we think that's going to land and get that things moved appropriately.
As far as different human languages?
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, if we don't mind having a quick conversation right now, I mean, I'm all for translation to multiple languages, but step 1 is to make sure that the content's worth it. So typically I would suggest try to get things a little more firmed up first because it's costly to do translations and keep them up to date.
So if you look at the new 1.5 goal, the first step is after the content has been collected and curated, we start to prioritize that for the most valuable content to translate. So that's the first step of that goal.
Okay. I don't have a link to it from the best practice working group notes.
Well, if you scroll down to the full SIG, you'll see where it says plan.
Okay. I've seen it before. Just it's been. Can we include that link? If I'm supposed to look at today, I need to make it easy for me.
No, Glenn has the issue, and that's goal. That's 32. So anyone that's welcome, but Dave and Glenn and I must look at it.
Oh, okay. When you said Dave, my
Dave
name.
Russo.
Okay, got it.
The other Dave.
Yes, I was worried. I have an assignment. Oh, I don't have an assignment. Life is better now.
We could have Professor Dave and Handsome Dave, I guess.
Oh, through the heart.
Randall?
There's also a paper that we're putting together about what are the requirements for content to be checked into SKF.
Could you repeat that a little louder?
I said that we're also putting together a paper that basically explains what are the requirements to check in a piece of content into SKF.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I guess one thing that's concerning me is originally we had a much broader. This isn't just, hey, what are the requirements for an updated SKF, but there was also what happened to our a manager track and a K through 12 track.
Well, if you read the full plan, David, that is
Yeah.
accounted for.
Awesome.
There are three sections.
I'm looking for it, but I'm not. I have a tiny little screen, and all I see is the notes for today.
No worries. And if you have questions later, if you have time, feel free to reach out to me on Slack and we can set up a chat. I can kind of
We've talked about it earlier. Just I want to make sure that it's actually recorded.
Yep.
Is my concern.
Indeed.
So can we throw that link into the notes so that everybody can look at it later?
To
The full plan, not to 3.2.
If you wait just 40 seconds, it's underneath full SIG. I'll talk about it.
Awesome. Great.
Section 3 is reward and incentivize developers. Did Sal join us today? Right. They're still making progress in section 3. Went through and I've adjusted the style of the plan so that it's a little more consistent. So we have the milestones are more clearly documented. And I'm also providing a placeholder for future issues to be filed and linked. And let's talk about the full SIG. Ideally, the plan is I want to have it done before the end of the month and have the full education SIG review it. Anyone from this working group is welcome to join in that if they desire. From there, I'd like to give it to the TAC in early December and then the governing board before the end of the year. So that's kind of the schedule we're working on for the education SIG to get funding on these efforts. So we are zeroing in on the 1.0 final draft, and get your changes and requests in now. Any other changes after those dates will be pushed into the backlog for year 2 or beyond. Any questions about the education SIG? And there's a link there that is the landing page for the full plan.
Yeah.
We also have the work that is currently undergoing on the glossary.
You want to share a little bit, Abhishek?
Yeah, we have a pull request that proposes the folder structure and the file structure for the glossary. And additionally, we've started the work on the glossary style guide. Let me link that.
Yeah.
Here.
So I guess I probably should raise this in the. See, Randall has his hand up, so I'll wait for Randall and then I'll.
I was just going to put Probe on notice because I'm doing the 3-way between his updates, Glenn's updates, and yeah. So I'm doing that today here shortly.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Wheeler.
Yeah, so I'm looking over the 2.0 plan, and here's the blob that I'm looking at now. you know, I know we had earlier had short lists and then we have an expansion, and I'm not sure what happened between the short and this longer list, but I'm okay to delay a little bit on the K through 12. I don't really see that, but I think we're going to need to get some sort of management training for managers, not manage the training, which is what 2.0 only seems to discuss. If it's there and I missed it, please point it out to me. But somehow in between our high level discussions and writing this down, I'm not seeing it. Did I miss it? And my apologies. I'm doing too many things, and sometimes things get away.
Where we have to merge it. But I think we may have written it down.
If you look at section 1, goal 1.3,
Okay, I don't see. I'm looking in 2.
look in section 1, goal
Section
1.3.
1.3. Right.
Milestone 1.
Yeah, but I don't. But okay, so shouldn't that be reflected in part 2? Expansion of the training.
We will start to make the connections here between now and the end of the month.
Okay. All right. So
everybody's been working independently, and then I'm going to shove it all back together, and we need to make sure that it all works.
And it will all be completely consistent. Yeah. Okay. So that's a particular bugaboo that we didn't have in the original mobilization plan, but that was really one of the first things that a lot of the government folks came back to and went, they're right. That's
I welcome anyone to contribute to any of these objectives and volunteer their time.
Okay. Awesome. All right. I'm actually interested in doing that, Crow. But not only just
I'm going to write your name down.
Write my name down. Not only that, but I might even be willing to try it because there you go. Because I think that's good. You know, it's all nice and well to say, hey, it's important for developers to know it, but if we don't get the managerial side on board, it's not going to have much of a push.
And for those of us that don't also participate actively in the Education SIG, the Education SIG is putting together this proposal for a large body of artifacts that we will produce and then go out and train different learner types through different channels, like a college class, through an online computer-based class, through labs. And once that plan is approved, we will need the generous contributions of many people. And the SIG will be coming back to this working group, the best practices working group, for specific assistance around, hey, we'd like a class, we need some materials on how to help managers better understand why secure development is important. So you'll see some future work flowing from the SIG back here to the working group for assistance. All right, any questions about that? All right, I am going to skip around a bit. You will note that the end of year holidays are coming up, and there will be some schedule changes. Please take a look in the agenda for when we may or may not be having calls. Randall, do you have a question?
I just wanted to say, I don't know, David, do you want to share about the other stuff for SKF about talking to Brian and all that? Did you want to share anything about
No,
that?
not right now. No.
Okay.
No, because there are things that people are talking about, but it's really nascent. So I would say, wait, work that stuff out first, because there's no point in getting stuff in until you have a clue what's going on.
Wait,
Fair.
stop, wait. All right. So we have a guest today.
Awesome.
Noam has stopped by to give us a short presentation. So I'm going to skip and do that, and then we'll circle back and hit the agenda and the other opens. So Noam, if you'd like to take it away, if you have anything to show us, or if this is just verbal, take it away.
Yeah, thank you, Christopher. So let me share my screen. I have a PowerPoint. You can see it, my screen.
Yes, indeed.
Great. So I wanted to talk with you guys about GitHub security best practices. Actually, I had two things to show you today, but I'm not sure about the second one. So let's begin. So the first one is GitHub best practices, and the second one is an open source tool we've developed at Legit to scan GitHub for
Yeah. A quick point of order. When you say GitHub best practices, are these best practices released by GitHub, or are these best practices by someone else on how to use GitHub?
So it's both. I see also that Randall has a question.
No, that's my bad.
Okay, so GitHub releases best practices and tutorials on how to work with their platform from time to time, but the community and many companies find additional best practices and have more information to share. And actually, let me skip to the agenda. A couple of months ago, I saw a message in the Slack channel that someone asked if this working group have a GitHub best practices document. Not sure if he's here, and that sounds like a great idea for me and Legit. At Legit, we analyze SDLC assets, GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket, Jenkins, and we see many types of organizations and security misconfigurations, and we have pretty good knowledge about these areas. And we thought it could be a good opportunity to contribute back and to help create such a document together with this working group. Okay, so let me go over these points over here. Regarding GitHub, there are many features and configurations inside the platform. GitHub keeps creating new great features like code spaces, GitHub Actions, etc. And each one comes with a bunch of new configurations and misconfigurations. Developers and DevOps engineers focus on their part of their job, which is to create the product and the DevOps pipelines, but they usually don't know enough about the security implications of their choices, and there is a knowledge gap. Additionally, in open source projects, it's even more important because the internal configuration is open for everyone. So if, for example, I go to a popular open source project and I see the GitHub Actions workflows and pipelines, I can see that it's misconfigured, and I can, as an attacker, exploit it because I know the internals. So we think there is a need for a single document which is easily digestible, that compiles all the misconfigurations and security best practices for GitHub. I have some examples for such misconfigurations. So let me continue. So we divide GitHub to this, we call it namespaces. GitHub has organizations, and organization has misconfigurations such as MFA is not enabled, SSO is not used. You have repository misconfigurations, which is like peer review is not mandatory, or the repository allows forking or is public. you have members, stale members, GitHub Actions related misconfigurations, code spaces, and runners. There are many areas in the GitHub platform that DevOps engineers need to know and understand. So we are emitting a document that has content such as this. So for every misconfiguration, you'll give like the description and the threat model around the misconfiguration and detailed remediation steps. So everyone could just go and know exactly where is the problem and how to fix it. So I have a few examples here, like MFA is not enabled and stale admin found. GitHub actions are not limited to verified actions. And pipeline code is vulnerable to command injection, etc. Okay, so let me stop here before I jump to the second topic I wanted to present and ask if you have questions and if you think this is something worth creating, and maybe we can help.
So what feedback do we have so far? I wish Zav or Madison from GitHub was here.
Or Xavier.
Yeah, Zav.
Oh, is that okay?
I'm shortening his name.
I see that. I see that. Okay. Well, I'm already started. I'll start unresponding to Dave. So I'm going the other way. Yeah. So I do think that there is a need for guidance for using some of these major forges like GitHub. I don't know if it makes sense to have a single doc that covers multiple or a single doc per each. I wouldn't be surprised if it make more sense to like one for GitHub and a separate one for GitLab because their user, I mean, there are overlaps in functionality, but the user interfaces are different enough that it would probably make more sense to have separate documents. I would certainly want, if at all possible, collaboration with the respective organizations. So like, recommended configuration for GitHub, I would very much want GitHub to be involved. Let me kind of ask the elephant in the room question, because somebody's gonna ask it sooner or later. So let's confront it head on. Hey, that sounds like GitHub's problem. let GitHub do it. I think there's some answers for it. But before we take on work, I'm always happy to let other people do work instead of us. We have limited time that we can do things. And granted, scorecards does hit a little bit on some GitHub recommended configurations, but do we have an answer for that question? And if not, maybe we should kind of think that through.
My opinion is that GitHub provides like a lot of information. They have very detailed the descriptions of their features, but you have to make something that is simple and digestible for the users. And
okay, all right. So let me rephrase what you just said. Tell me if because sometimes I find it sometimes useful to paraphrase something to see if I got it. So the issue is that GitHub's trying to provide a very general service with lots of general functionality, but that can be complicated to figure out how to use. Something that's more opinionated that says, hey, there's lots of ways to do it, but here's a happy path with some specific opinions that will quickly get you where you need to go. Is that what you have in mind?
Exactly.
Okay, good. All right. So I didn't understand it this time anyway.
Yeah, and additionally, I think that there is more knowledge for the user. Like GitHub create the platform, but companies use the platform in many ways, and they have many use cases. And It's not a one-to-one relation. So there is some interaction between the misconfiguration. Not everything is straightforward. And there is a lot of research about this stuff. And yeah.
Marta.
Yeah, I'd like to add a comment. I'm not against that kind of document. What I'm really missing here is the why. We have quite many list of the things developers should do, but what I'm facing in practice is, for example, for the two-factor authentications, people say, but why should I use it? I don't want it. It requires me to have a phone app or whatever. I don't like it. I don't want to activate it. And the common work is to convince them why it is important to work more about the thread and why, and less about which options you are going to click, because that is already documented.
Totally agree. Exactly. And we added the threat in the examples to show this, because not everything is straightforward in the misconfigurations. Okay, so if there are not further questions, let me continue to the second part. So actually, I wanted to present an open source tool we've developed. After being here in this call, I'm not sure if this is the right working group, because if I understand correctly, you are focused on creating education and content and less about specific tools. Yeah.
Not really.
You have some tools.
Yeah, scorecards is a tool.
Yeah, and so is SKF. And so
So that's yeah. So, yeah, no, we're focused on solving problem.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so we've developed an open source tool that scans GitHub for misconfiguration and security issues. I'll begin with that. It's different from the scorecard project in that scorecard is focused on a specific repository, and this looks holistically on the whole GitHub assets, organization, members, GitHub actions, all of the repositories, hosted runners, and give you a detailed list of where are the problems. And if you don't mind, I'd be happy to present it with a quick demo. Yeah?
Sure, go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You can see my terminal?
Oh, yeah, yes, but can you give me just a second? I've got a small screen and I've got to make some adjustments so I can actually read this, because I actually do want to read what you're up to. Thank you. Yeah, I'm ready now.
Zoom in.
Oh, yes, please. Oh, thank you so much.
Okay, so.
Yes, I can read it. Can everybody else read it?
Perfect.
Awesome.
So let's start with a simple command that will show us what assets the provided token has access to. So you can see all my organizations and what are my permissions on that organization. And then we can run an analyze command to get all the misconfigurations. So I'll execute the tool on the sandbox organization. You have like a nice progress bar, and then you get a detailed table that summarizes all of your problems. Sorted by severity and the namespace. You can see that you have different namespaces: organization, actions, member, and repository. You have the specific policy that is violated, and how many of your assets have passed, failed, or skipped. Skipped is when you don't provide sufficient permissions. This is the summarized table. And if you go up, you have a detailed description for each violation. So let's go here. For example, we can see the policy. Default branch allows pushes to protect the protected branch. You have description. You have the remediation steps and which assets violates the policy. This way is easy to solve the problems. We also provide a JSON output, so it can be consumed by software, and we we add it has an evolving list of misconfigurations. We research GitHub for problems all the time, and for misconfigurations all the time, and we keep adding new policies. So it's a living tool. Yeah.
I'm a little confused. You said it looked more at the organizations, but a lot of these reports look like they're per repository. Maybe I'm misunderstanding something.
So you have many misconfigurations for repository because of the branch protection rules, and this is like the heart of the software. But we provide misconfiguration for.
Okay, so I see. So you have it organized by namespace. So some of them are organization. Actions is outside. Okay.
Actions is like GitHub Actions related configurations.
Sure, I got that, but it's not. I would have thought that there would be attached to a repo or an org, but okay, interesting.
Yeah, so you have actions misconfiguration in the repo level and the organization level. So those are for the organization, and they are the same ones for repositories.
Okay, interesting.
We also have integration with the scorecard project. So, for example, if you want to check which repository has low scorecard, you can get a full list in over here. Yeah.
Coolly.
So do you have any plans to extend this tool to other source code repositories, or are you only ever going to focus on GitHub?
For sure. We are planning to add GitLab support in the next couple of months.
Cool.
But if I connect this question to the previous one about the documents, which should be either one for all the SCMs or different ones, I do agree that we should make different documents for each source code management, because they have very specific features and configurations.
I have to admit, I wouldn't be surprised if you made a per document for these different forges, but then immediately tried to unify as much as possible, because although there are like a pull request in GitHub is a merge request in GitLab. However, there's a whole lot of commonality between some of the things that you most want to enforce are things that are commonly supported, though not always by the same name. So some sort of cross comparisons occasionally, I think, would be wise.
For sure, and I can extend on this and say that when we search for vulnerabilities in those projects, there are similarities between the vulnerabilities inside their source code. They develop a similar source code internally, which is interesting.
I'm very intrigued. I would love to see the rule set of this. Now, you made a statement earlier, so I just want to come forward and say it. This is totally within scope of this group. I mean, scorecards does the similar kind of thing at a project level. You're including both. You are doing things in org level, although a lot of these, frankly, look at a repo level, and that's fine too. But I think this is totally within scope of this group. Now, whether or not it's an OpenSSF project, I mean, that's a different question and so on. But this kind of thing is certainly within the remit, my opinion, of this group. And Crope, you feel free to disagree.
I'm not disagreeing, but if this was something we would want to adopt, we would want to put it to the working group as a vote. But
oh, absolutely, absolutely. I just think
this absolutely aligns with things we're doing. Yes.
Yeah.
And the same thing with the best practices guidance. That is something we do, although we try to remain as vendor neutral as possible. So I would be hesitant to do something on focus on a specific technology. And Xavier and the GitHub folks will be the first people to say that as well. Right.
And for example, the scorecards, the current implementation only works on GitHub. However, I worked with the scorecards folks to make sure that all the criteria are neutral. They're not specific to GitHub at all. And it's only the current implementation, and there's been some effort. The intent is to move beyond.
Yeah, and that they have that in their backlog, is that we'll be working towards being extensible to other source code repos.
Yeah, and we've actually reached out to GitLab and so on to work on that. But yeah, I mean, I have no trouble with start small and then start with something and then you grow, as long as we're not locking ourselves in.
Any additional questions or feedback for Noam? Been a very quiet group today.
Yeah, how do we get the list of all the cool things you're checking on? I'll bet there's a place we can find this on GitHub. I bet on Legitify there's probably some place where I can go to find out the rules you look for under the GitLab's Legitify page.
Yeah, we have GitHub pages website with the full list of all the rules.
Okay. Oh, where's that?
Yeah, so I can share the link in the chats.
Excellent.
That would be okay. You're gonna put that. Okay. The chat, just by the way, goes away when our thing closes.
So, I get a delightful text file after every meeting that has it. So if we need it, I can pull it out. But yes,
okay.
For everyone else, it goes away. Okay. Daniel, you had a question, sir.
Okay. Yeah.
I
go ahead.
Sorry. No, I just wanted to express support. I mean, as long as we keep in mind the vendor neutrality aspect, and everything I've seen in the presentation seems to support that ideal. So yeah, this looks really good, and I don't think I think it feels to me like it would be a good complement for scorecards.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Dan, for the support. I think it should be part of the scorecard project, as we say. So I'm not sure how it can be integrated, because the scorecard, correct me if I'm wrong, is very focused on repository. All of the rules and policies are repository oriented. And so I'm not sure how it should work.
So like for integration options, we would have to go to the scorecard project and talk with them, kind of like how we had, best practices and SKF talking, kind of arranging out of band how they might better synchronize. So we need to probably have you go talk with with Laurent and Azim and everyone in the scorecards group to kind of present to them and share your ideas specifically with any kind of integration there.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there are many ways, including federation approaches.
Right.
I mean, the best practices badge and the scorecards. Scorecards takes the totally automated. Best practices takes the mostly form filling with some automation, and the integration is basically the scorecards yanks in the badge info when we're available. So there are many ways to skin this cat. Step one is to discuss.
Yeah, okay. So I'm done with my presentation. Thanks for your time, guys. So
Yeah, no, more. I got the GitHub link to the Legitify overall page. Is there one that's more specific with the rules that you've got? Because I think that's the cool, especially cool nugget is all the things you're looking for.
yeah,
Okay, Legitify.dev. Okay, that's the thing I wanted to know.
perfect.
Oh, this is excellent. Thank you so much. All right, this is great. Thank you so much.
So if there is something specific you want to propose for the group, like if we want to collaborate on the source code best practices, or even about a kind of including your tool as part of our working group, we'll need to put an issue together and kind of talk through that, and then we'll have the whole group vote on that. So if you want to, we can talk offline about that.
Sure. So I wanted to suggest to create the best practices. So we need to make it an issue for this as well. Okay, and also for the tool. So let's talk about it offline.
Great.
Thanks, guys.
I apologize to David A. We ran out of time. If you could come back in 2 weeks and talk about your guidance portal idea, we'd love to hear that if you're available.
Guidance portal?
Sure. Yeah, I would be happy to come back and chat about it.
Excellent. And as Dan mentioned at the top of the call, we have a couple issues we're looking for some closure or comments on. Please take some time and look at issue 99 and 97 and those affiliated with that. Please add comments or get us closer to closure on those, please. Randall?
I pushed 100 and 101. They're ready for you, Crow.
Awesome. I will get my merge and clicking finger ready.
All right, and I would propose that David have Alcantar have pride of play be step one, since we unintentionally bumped you, and I'm very sorry I didn't realize that was happening.
Oh no, I don't feel that I got unintentionally bumped. No worries, that's totally okay.
Hopefully this was interesting.
It was genuinely very educational, informational. I mean, I don't know much about what you guys are working on here, and I feel like maybe there's a little bit of overlap with what I wanted to talk about, but that this was a good start for me. So thank you, I appreciate it.
Excellent. Well, check out our repo and cruise through the meeting notes to kind of see what we're working on. I want to thank everybody for your time and attention today. I appreciate it. Good call. Thank you to Noam for presenting your ideas today. And we will meet again in 2 weeks. Cheers all.
Thank you, everybody.